it has been a roller coaster week for global markets, and it all kicked off on Monday when the S&P started the week in bear market territory, a 20% fall from its recent peak. That wasn't helped by President Donald Trump announcing an additional 50% tariff on China in response to their 34% retaliation the week prior. Wall Street started the day higher Tuesday, encouraged by word that dozens of countries were seeking deals. But as the hours ticked down to Trump's so-called Liberation Day, gains evaporated and U.S. stocks ended the day in the red. Now, on Wednesday, President Trump's so-called reciprocal tariffs went into effect, a major escalation in his global trade war. Tariffs on China were raised to at least 104%, and China responded with 84% tariffs. The European Union also backed countermeasures, albeit only against an earlier round of U.S. tariffs on steel and aluminium. Markets were deeply unsettled, with a sell-off even in assets like U.S. bonds, usually a safe haven at times of volatility. But then Trump announced a major turnaround.
I thought that people were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy, you know, they were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid, unlike these champions, because we have a big job to do. No other president would have done what I did.
A 90-day pause on the new higher tariffs to allow for negotiations, and in their place a 10% baseline tariff for all on his list, apart from China, whose tariffs increased to 125%. The news sparked one of the biggest Wall Street rallies in history, but that was short-lived. On Thursday, the sell-off continued as U.S. recession fears remained unassuaged by Trump's tariff pause, and those losses steepened after the White House clarified that the total levy on China wasn't 125%, but at least 145%. The EU announcing a 90-day pause on its tariffs on U.S. products wasn't enough to lift U.S. stocks, especially after the EU Commission President warned if negotiations weren't satisfactory, their countermeasures would kick in. The week ended with China retaliating once again on Friday, raising its tariff on the U.S. to 125%, with a spokesperson for China's Commerce Ministry saying it had become nothing more than a numbers game with no real economic significance. In 1 week, we saw volatility on Wall Street, economists' warnings about a U.S. recession, a weakened dollar, and a U.S. bond sell-off. It all suggests that Trump's trade war is already having lasting consequences, regardless of the backpedaling. Anna Stewart, CNN, London.